In this episode of the Rockets Chop Shop Pod, we talk about the Rockets 21 games into the NBA season. Last time we checked in on them was at the 10-game mark. So now we're going to check in 21 games in. Some surprising data has come up. So we're going to review that. Also, we're going to give Tari Eason his flowers. Tap in right now. Enjoy. The Rockets Chop Shop is your one-stop shop for all your basketball needs, for highlights, analysis, podcasts. We do it all here at the Rockets Chop Shop. Make sure you hit the like button on the videos that you watch if you enjoy them. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications from all the great drops that we have on the channel. Also, you can visit the Chop Shop merch store and get you some of the swaggiest gear in the Houston Rockets kingdom. And if you want, you can always support the channel directly through donations. And if you want, you can support us through our partnerships with our sponsors. The Rockets Chop Shop is made by fans, for fans, and we're going to keep rocking and keep dropping that heat. From me. This is something I know. So your Houston Rockets are sitting at 12-9, 7th in the West as we speak right now, pretty much tied in the loss column all the way up to like 5th or 4th. So we're pretty much a playoff team right now. We just haven't played as many games as the rest of the league for some weird reason. But don't worry, the schedule is going to pick up and get crazy in a second. But as we do, I know I missed 15 and 20. So let's catch up, right? We're going to do a 21-game review of your Rockets to see where they are, what has changed since the last time we checked in at the 10-game mark. Some surprising things came up. I'm not going to lie. There's some new data that has come up over time. Obviously, the 10-game is a small sample size, so it's always good to update these graphics and to see, what are the changes. And I try to keep the changes over time in there so you guys can see the progression. So let's get into the data and we'll talk about some other stuff on the back end. Tap in right now. Let's go. So one thing that the Rockets have clearly struggled on is offense, right? We are literally one of the worst offensive teams in stretches of the games, but we find a way to get it done. So currently we are sitting at an offensive rating of 111.7, which will rank 22nd in NBA, which, is not great. It's below average. This is a drop from the 17th that we ranked at the 10-game mark. So the offense has actually gotten worse over as the season has progressed. Not markedly worse, it's not like we're just terrible. We've actually been consistent at being a middle to below average offense. The league has just gotten better, right? Other teams are actually improving our offense while we're staying the same. So as we rank, our ranks are getting lower. Our numbers are pretty much staying the same. Defensive rating, this is an improvement. We are ranked second in defensive rating in the NBA right now, which is at the 10-game mark, we're at 4th. So we're actually getting better on defense. The only reason we are actually winning these games is because of our defense, right? We are able to stop teams and beat them. 107.8 is nothing to sneeze at. Net rating plus 3.9, which is relatively the same as where we were at the 10-game mark. So we are 8th in net rating. We were 8th back then. We're 8th now. So no big change there. Still a defensive focused team with below average to average offense. Rebounding percentage, we are 10th right now, which is up from 16th. So we are improving on that. And I'm going to attribute that to one, Mr. Tari Eason. Assist percentage, pretty much the same, around the 63 percentile, ranked 9th currently, improved from 13th. Assist to turnover, 1.91. We were 12th. Now we're 13th. So that's a slight decrease in that. Turnover percentage kind of went up. So turnovers did go up, right? We did go up the turnovers. You guys can clearly see a lot of our main ball handlers, Fred, Alperen, Jalen, are turning the ball over a lot. So we are at 16th from 5th, which isn't great. And to me, it just kind of speaks to some of the offensive struggles that the team is having. So just some other stats that are interesting, points per game, pretty relatively the same, 109.8. Field goal percentage, we went from 16th to 23rd in the NBA at 46.1, but that number stayed relatively the same. 3-point percentage went down just a smidge, but still stayed in the rankings the same, 13th and 13th from the 10-game mark. 3-point attempts went up a little bit to 34.7, nothing to write home about. Free throws, we're still 25th, a bottom team in shooting free throws. EFG went down from 17th to 22nd, which isn't great. And true shooting went down from 19th to 22nd. So on brand with what I said earlier, the team is struggling on offense, trying to find out what our identity is. And I think this is, to me, this is where it comes down to. For example, in that Memphis game, we didn't really know where we wanted to go with the ball, right? Guys are just pretty much running around trying to figure stuff out, especially if Alperin isn't cooking and he's struggling on offense. And Bismack Biyombo was just, I don't know, that dude is a boogeyman for Alperin Şengün. There's some certain centers that I've noticed in the league that give him trouble. Dwayne Dedmon is one of them. For some weird reason, he always struggles against Dwayne Dedmon. Jonas Valanciunas was one of them. He's kind of exercising that a bit. And now you can add Bismack Biyombo to the list. And I think the common factor between those centers is they're tough, they're strong, and he can't move them. And it's really hard for him to generate space, especially, them not being able to budge. They don't bite on his fake. So he just got to keep getting in the weight room. That stuff is going to happen over time. Those are grown men, grown men. And, as much as he's improved over this summer, he's young. He's going to keep improving. He's 21 years old. He's 2 months younger than Amen Thompson. So, all the people that want to write the think pieces about how Alperin Şengün is a fraud over 2 games. It's just crazy at this point. But yeah, so I think that, that's going to be Achilles heel for him. But when he isn't cooking on offense, we don't have anything. And that's a problem right now. That's a problem. I feel like there are some things the Rockets could do using Jabari Smith Jr., who we'll talk about in detail a little bit. But right now, it's Alperin or bust. And that's not a good, solid base. Now, a lot of this could be attributed to Jalen Green struggling because, as you guys know, my philosophy on big men, if a big man is your best offensive player, it's really, really hard to really score at a high level, especially in close games and high leverage moments. And because every great big man has a perimeter partner that they kind of do their thing with, right? And right now we don't have that, right? As good as Fred is, he's not great on offense. We saw that yesterday. And Fred is leading the NBA in minutes per game at 38, number 1 entire league in minutes per game. I think a lot of the stuff that he's going through is due to fatigue. That's my thing. I think he's gonna crash out. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. I think he's playing way too many minutes. I know he's used to being high minutes, but that's why his efficiency is trash, right? So I don't know. Maybe Amen coming back is gonna help. I don't think Amen is ready to really be that burden, take on that burden from Fred and actually keep what Fred does on a constant. So, people are saying Amen. Yeah, but Amen is still a rookie. So he has a lot of bumps and bruises he's going to have to go through. But Fred isn't the perimeter guy we need. Jalen obviously is having his issues right now. There's really nobody else. Jabari's coming into his own, but he's not really a guy that can generate his own shot and really have a consistent 2-man game between him and Alperin. So that's an area of need that they need right now. And I think if they can fix that, it's going to open up the offense. But as we stand right now, we are just out here just running cardio on offense, right? That is, to me, where a lot of the issues lie with the Rockets and their offensive game right now. When we look at the starting 5, I always like to see how they're doing in context to the rest of other starters. So these stats you're looking at are based on 5-man lineups that have had over 100 possessions, right? And I think there's 70 something of them in the NBA, 70 or 80 that have had over 100 possessions. The Rockets are the number 1 5-man lineup in the NBA with possessions. Our starters have played together more than any other lineup in the league. So these numbers are really real. And the gap between possessions is really large with some of the other high elite lineups, because you look at who is right under us in possessions, teams like the Raptors, they're in the negative. So us being a plus 11.5 is very significant. You look at our offensive points per possession, 46th out of that, 70 something number, middle of the pack. Not great there. The defense is at 102.1. Points per possession ranks 9th in all the defensive lineups that played over 100 possessions, which is really, really good. Net rating is 11.5, which ranks 26th. Now, keep in mind, some of these lineups that are ranked higher than us are they've 101 possessions. We have 100 plus possession lineups that are plus 40 something. So I always like to keep that in the forefront so you guys understand the significance of what you're looking at with the Rockets. EFG percentage on offense ranks 40th at 55.6, which is pretty much average. Defensive, we're holding teams to 47.7% on EFG, which ranks 5th, which is damn near first, in my opinion. 3-point accuracy from the corners, 44.4%, ranks 25th. Non-corners, 37.2%, ranked 39th. All threes, we are at 38.3, ranked 39th. We were at the top in those first 10 games. We were top 10 in damn near all these categories. Now we're kind of either middle or below average in these. And 2-point accuracy at the rim, 66.5%. Below average. Mid-range, we are kind of above average as a mid-range shooting team as a whole. So this is one of my favorite exercises to do. I like to look at each of our starters, their on and off net ratings and differentials when they're on the court, when they're off the court, and then what happens when you take them out of the context of the starting five, right? What happens when you put somebody else in their place in the starting five? Because to me, this tells me what their overall impact is and whether they're just being propped up by this being part of a good unit, or are they the reason we're a good unit? So let's go through that. So we'll start off with we'll do the elderlies first. Fred VanVleet, he goes first. On-off impact for Fred VanVleet. You can see his on-court is plus 7.6, which is a uptick from the first 10 games. So he's actually improved impact in the game. His off-court is when he's off the court, the team is a minus 3.8. Previously in those first 10 games, remember I told you guys sample size was small back then. The team was better with him off the court. That is definitely corrected over time, right? So he has a net differential of plus 10.8. So there's a 10 points per possession swing when Fred is on the court versus off the court, which is much improved from the -4 that he was previously. Also, what has changed, you can see the starters without Fred are a negative 8.7, which is very significant. He is really stabilizing our starting lineups. I know, I just said about him playing a lot of minutes. Coach Udoka and his staff actually see these numbers, right? Their stats department, they look at these numbers. The film tells you when Fred is there, we're okay. And when he's not there, we suck. So him and Alp are really going to be those guys that really stabilize a lot of our units. And that's why they are, the main ones that have a lot of positive differentials on the team. So you can see why he plays a lot of minutes, but I just feel like we could use different lineups to try to make up some of those minutes so he doesn't have to play as much, so his efficiency is better, so we don't suck on offense, right? So that's for Fred VanVleet. He has improved over time and is impacting winning. So we're going to look at Dillon Brooks. On court, he is plus 4.5. This is down from his plus 9.6 in the first 10 games. Off court, plus 6.5, which is up from plus 0.6 in the first 10 games. So the team is actually better with Dillon off the court at this moment. And I'm going to attribute that, not to that he just is a bad player, because he's still a positive, but our bench has been playing really, really well. Our bench is playing well. Plus the return of one Tari Eason. That's why we got to give Tari his flowers. You really just got to see the impact Tari brings to the team has really made it where when Dillon isn't there and he fills in that role, it's really, really just a positive for the team. It's actually been better. Net differential for Dillon right now, it's a -2. And now, keep in mind, this doesn't mean he's hurting the team. It just means the team is slightly better in some lineups when he's out there. The starters without Dillon Brooks are still terrible at -42.3. Now, this is improved from the negative 78.8 that were in the first 10 games, but still, he is a impact player on the starting five. So definitely, he is a culture setter for us, and I'm, very pleased with how he's played so far. He just got to stop fouling. Like, bro, stop fouling, please. Alperen Sengun, on-off impact, on-court plus 6.5, which is relatively the same from the first 10 games. So consistency there, slight uptick. Off court, the team is plus 1.8 when he's off the court. They were actually plus 7.8 prior to that, but that has definitely dipped. And he has a plus 4.7 net differential. So we are plus 4.7 points better with Alperen on the court than overall. Previous in the first 10 games, it was minus 1.5. So the team was better when he wasn't playing, which, like I said, low sample size, funny lineups. As things start to groove on, you'll see. So starters without Alp is still terrible at minus 45. It was minus 43.1 before. So he has now become the most important starter on the court, which is a title that once belonged to Dillon Brooks. So Jabari Smith Jr. on-off impact. On court, Jabari is a plus 1.9. Nothing to write home about. You're not going to brag about this, but for where he was coming from as one of the biggest negatives on the team, this is great, right? And he is actually better than he was in the first 10 games. Currently plus 1.9, about 0.5 more than he was. And we're seeing this in real time. He's getting better every single game. Off court, the team is still better when Jabari's off the court, but Look what it was in the first 10 games, plus 16, right? So incremental improvements. He is definitely turning the corner in real time. So net differential with Jabari on and off the court. He is actually impacting the team in a negatively, but for him, it's a positive because we're not negative when he's on the court, if that makes sense. Like, we're positive on the court. We're just better with him off the court. But I think that's going to normalize and actually get that number is going to dwindle down as the season goes on if he keeps playing the way he's playing. The starters without Jabari Smith, this is where you got to look at it, right? Jabari still struggles when he is, out there as the lone creator, or him and Jalen, or him and some random players out there throwing. But he has really, really improved on the starting five, right? When we did the first 10 games, Jabari was the starters without Jabari was plus 29.6. That means we were beating teams by 29 points when Jabari wasn't in the starting five. Now you bring that till today, Jabari is minus 6.6 outside the starting five, meaning we are losing when he is with the starting five unit. This is probably, I would shed tears right now, right? This is what you want to see. He is definitely making a huge impact, especially with his rebounding. I talked about that in the last video. This is significant, and this is in 98 possessions, damn near 100 possessions. So Jabari is turning the corner in real time. Like, we are seeing the evolution of a player. So shout out to him. And last but not least is going to be Jalen Green, right? Jalen Green is definitely struggling. I know everybody could see it. That Grizzlies game was not great, right? That was not Jalen's best game. I think he's starting to really get into his head with all these, different comments about his play and the pressures of him trying to be good and what his role and fit. It's really coming to a head right now, and it's really showing in his performance. And you could see it in the progression from the first 10 games to the next 11 games from that. First 10 games, he was a plus 7.7 on the court. Now he's a plus 1.3. That's damn near a 6-point drop in his impact. You look at him when he's off the court, the team is 12.9 points better when he's off the court. You don't want to see that from a starting two guard, right? In the first 10 games, that was only plus 4.5. So he was a player that was actually helping the team win in the first 10 games. Now you can see when he's on the court versus off the court, he is a negative 11.6. That's the swing when he's not playing. Same thing with Jabari. Not that he is necessarily causing us to lose games, but we are definitely much better when he's off the court in this season so far. And the eye test shows that, right? Jalen shows that with his eye test. And the starters without Jalen are plus 28.1. And it's like him and Jabari switch places. Like they switch places. He was a player that if he wasn't in the starting five, we were losing by 6 points. Now we're beating teams by 28 points when he isn't on the starting five. So if you want to single out a player that is really struggling in our starting unit, is Jalen Green. And this leads me to Tari Eason, because we've seen recently Coach Udoka has really used Tari as that kind of Jalen buffer. Like, he puts Tari in that starting role or with the starters to close out a lot of games when he benches Jalen. And we get to see what that team looks like. And I'm curious to see what that looks like. But okay, so let's give Tari Eason his flowers, right? Let's give Tari Eason. Here's a profile on Tari Eason. Offensive rating, he is at 111.8, which is fifth. Defensive rating, 94.5, which is first on the team. And I think top 5 in the NBA. Got to be top 5 in the NBA. Net rating plus 17.2 is also first, which got to be top 5 in the NBA right now. Offensive rebounding percentage, he's first on the team at 11.1. Defensive rebound percentage, he is first on the team at 24% on that, eating into other players' rebounding, right? He is a positive, extra positive on that end, making up for the lack of rebounding for some of the players that we have on the court. Now, one thing I've noticed, like I alluded to earlier, Tari is being used as kind of a player to fill in the void for whether he's playing in place of Dylan when Dylan's in foul trouble, and most recently for Jalen Green when Jalen gets benched. So I wanted to see what does Tari Eason look like when he's on the court and off the court. So his on-off, just like we did with the starters. When Tari's on the court, he is a plus 19.8, which is stupid. That is stupid. We're beating teams by damn near 20 points per possession when he's on the court. When he's off the court, we are at minus 0.4. So we're a negative in totality. And he's played about 500 and some possessions this season. When Tari's off the court in those possessions, the Rockets are negative 0.4. So we are losing. Remember, at baseline, the Rockets are a winning team, right? We are like +5 with everybody. So the fact that when you take him off the court that we're losing, it does really tell you the impact that this dude has to winning. And this has been the hallmark of his career up to this point. When this dude is on the court, we're winning. When he's off the court, we're losing. Net differential for Tari +20, which is nuts. So just to drill down on Tari Eason and what he brings to the starting lineup, once he's on the court with the starters, our offensive points per possession is 108.1, which is low. Like, we're a below average offense. So that's really where we lack. I think our base offensive points per possession is like 113, 111, whatever it is that I said earlier. But the offense takes a huge dip. Here's where he impacts the game on defense, right? We are at 100 flat, 100 points per possession for teams, which were ranked 99th percentile in the NBA on defense. Now, funnily enough, if you look at it, our shooting is actually much better with Tari. When he's in the starting lineup, 62.5% is our EFG, which is 2s and 3s. And that is 100th percentile in the NBA, which would be one of the highest EFGs in the NBA. And on defense, we're holding teams to 41.4%, which is also 100 percentile. Now, if I looked at like, how is it that we have such a low offensive points per possession, but we are so elite at shooting? They are shooting a bunch of 2s when Tari's on the court. We are the best mid-range shooting team in those 37 possessions, which is low sample size. The 3s are trash, right? Low 30s and high 20s and on 3s. So we definitely can look at it as you know, something that impacts on the defense, but offensively the struggles are still there. He is not really helping us on that end to the extent that you would like. We're just a super elite defense when you have Tari, Jabari, and Dylan Brooks with Fred VanVleet and Alperen Sengun on the court. So just to see Tari's impact and where he actually is, you know, coming into these games and what it looks like, I wanted to look at when he's in place of certain starters. So when he comes in for Fred VanVleet, we can't say because it's never happened. Same thing for Sengun. That has actually never happened. He's never been on the court with the starters without Fred or Sengun. So it's always going to be Fred, Sengun, and Tari. Then other guys are missing. So if no Jabari, that means he is in place with Jabari Smith. The starting 5 is a minus 27.5, right? So that's the team is minus 27.5. That's only 10 possessions, low sample size. So not really much to make from it, but we are not better with him in place of Jabari as of right now in the starting 5. If you take him out in the place of Dylan Brooks when he's in that Dylan role, the team is plus 20.9. Also, same thing, low sample size. Now, here's interesting. In the 37 possessions that he's been in for Jalen Green, with the other starters were plus 8.1, like I said earlier, in those 37 possessions. So, I mean, that does beg the question, right? Should he be the replacement for Jalen Green? No. To me, my answer is no. I don't think that he should be the replacement, especially not on a long-term basis, because I feel like there's several things I feel. I feel like, one, he does have a role on the team. And it is very, very important for him to come off the bench right now, especially with Jabari playing the way that he's playing, right? Because we need what he brings, the pace. We need the defense, the rebounding with our 2s. So him being in the starting lineup and then relegating Jalen Green to the bench, for example, I know he's not going to start over Dylan, but putting Jalen on the bench to me hurts our team because you're putting a worse player in context of other worst players, right? So I love Aaron Holiday, but he looked like a pumpkin yesterday, right? So, you know, the Cinderella story is starting to be off. Like, I love what he brings to the team. I just don't trust him, especially like in a playoff setting. So I actually think Tari brings an important role for the Rockets in the bench lineups, for us going forward. Now, defensively, if you need to get a stop, right? If you need a stretch or down in the fourth, or you want to bench Jalen or somebody else, Dylan's in foul trouble, I feel like Tari is the first guy to come in. So no more Tate. And low-key, you know, unless Sengun is tripping like he was yesterday, and, you know what I mean, I have no issues with Coach Udoka benching our young guys. If they need to be benched, they need to be benched. My question for them is, what you gonna do about it, bro? Like, what are you gonna do about it? How do you react? To me, that's what a dog does. You get your buttons pressed, you got to do something about it. What are you going to do about it? That's what, to me, is the response that we need to look at, right? So, for example, for Jalen Green to be benched multiple times, that is a troubling sign. that he's continuously being benched down a stretch of games. I know Coach Udoka said he doesn't really look at it as a guy doing bad, but he looks at it as other guys playing better than you. Like Jalen, Aaron Holiday should not be playing better than you. You know what I mean? Tari Eason should not be playing better than you. He's younger than you. Well, he's not younger, but he's a second-year player, and you're a third-year starting player that was supposed to be a star player on this team. Alperen Sengun, Jeff Green should not be outplaying you down the stretch of a game. Jabari Smith, Jeff Green should not be outplaying you down the stretch of games. But what do guys do? So this is Alperen's first time being benched. Let's see what he does. How does he respond, right? To me, that's the mark of a dog. I don't need you wilting and getting in your head. Do something about it, right? Fight back. You feel me? So that's why I'm going to be watching for him going forward. But I think for Tari is going to play that role right now where he fills in the voids of what the team needs at that time. And that is perfectly fine with me. I don't think Jalen needs to get benched at this moment, like completely. Just take him out the lineup when he's tripping. Take any of them out the lineup when they're tripping. I don't think coach is ever going to bench Fred or Dylan because they're vets and he trusts vets. Most coaches trust vets. But if a young guy's tripping, hey, bro, watch from the sideline if somebody else does it better than you. And then you can adjust your game to that. That's what you want to look for when you are dealing with young players trying to learn how to be winners. One of the hardest things for young guys to do is develop consistency, right? For Jalen, we're seeing him struggle through it in real time. For Jabari, we're seeing him struggle through it. Like he is better, but he's still not, a great player that you're just going to say like, oh, Jabari's just in there just killing it. He still has offensive stretches where he struggles. But one thing that you have to be consistent with, and this is the reason coach benches guys, it's not because you're missing shots. It's not because, you're just, your guys are just hitting tough shots. It's effort. It's effort. So Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr. are never going to lack effort. They might have bad shooting games, make bad decisions, have bad turnovers, do this wrong, that wrong. One thing you can always control is effort. And for Jalen and more Jalen, but Alperen in that probably the last couple of games, the effort is waxed and waned. He needs to pick that up. They both need to pick it up. What are you going to do about it? That's the question I'm going to ask from our guys. I think Tari is playing his role to a T. And when Dylan, you know what I mean? Maybe a year or two from now, I think that's that Dylan role that's going to come in. We need a bucket on the team. Tari doesn't solve the biggest issue the Rockets have right now. Surprisingly, at this point in the season, isn't their defense, it's their offense. We are ranked number 2 in the NBA in defense. That is not an issue for us. That is not the issue for us. The issue for us is offensively, and we are lacking in the backcourt and on the wings in scoring. So we need a bucket getter. I don't know how they're going to get it. I don't think Jalen is ready this year, and that's perfectly fine. Here's how I'm approaching the Jalen Green thing. You treat him as he's playing. If he's going to play like a role player, treat him like a role player. And to me, if you guys do this, it'll really make you just watch the games a lot easier. It'll make watching the games a much more enjoyable experience. I have taken down my expectations for Jalen Green, and my God, it is the best thing ever. Like I just see him as just Jabari. Jalen is Jabari to me. Jalen is damn near a Man Thompson to me. I just look at him like, okay, he's having a good game. Hooray. If he's struggling, take him out, right? And if he has it going, if he can put together good games in a row like Jabari is doing and stack good games, then good, then we're progressing upwards. But I'm not going to have go crazy every time the dude has a bad game and then he has a good game. Then I'm like, oh my God, this Jalen. Like, bro, he's just struggling right now. This is what he's going to be this year. And yeah, let's see what he does next season. But right now you treat him according to what he's playing like, which is a supporting player. And that's cool. Now, this does beg the question for the Rockets, right? As far as what are they going to do as the trade deadline approaches? What are you going to do to address this team? Obviously, we're a viable team. We're sitting at 7th in the West. We are a team that, to me, can make a lot of noise this year. And I think the young guys getting in the playoffs, being able to get this experience is going to be valuable. And I think that this is something that they need to push for. So it's going to beg the question what Rafael Stone wants to do, right? Obviously, you guys may have heard the audio from the ESPN radio talking about how he doesn't like Sengun or they didn't think Sengun would be here during this season, which does question his decision making. And to me, as a GM, when you're losing games, it's real easy to just kind of hide behind that. When you are actually being a contender and in position to win and make winning moves, the pressure is up, right? So now his decisions are going to be magnified. How does he address the roster? What is he going to do to change the roster, to make it better, to make it fit better? What is he going to do to supplement players like Alperen Şengün, Fred VanVleet, Jabari Smith, Tari? What are you going to do to supplement them and help them be better and work with your coaching staff? Because Ime Udoka and his decision-making can only take you so far, right? He saved you from the James Harden acquisition. But you as a GM have to put on your big boy pants and make some big decisions. So I'm curious to see what he's going to do this trade deadline, because right now the Rockets are struggling on offense. So you all let me know any surprises from the first 21 games. What is your takeaway from, from the benching of Alperen Şengün and Jalen Green? Do you think Tari Eason should start? Let me know in the comments and in the chat. Keep rocking with the Chop Shop. I'm going to keep dropping that.